Can you hear me? Oh, yeah. I am at full volume. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out on this day, which we are saying is a turning point, a time in history that is being made, where people gather to be together, to hear together from our heads and our hearts and our hands. And we really welcome you and bring the Drawdown solutions to you today as an addition to the whole family of solutions that people have been showing up for this week. So it's going to be a very full day that we're calling is a celebration of a week that is a launch for a life of commitment.
Sorry. So, how many people here were at the marches someplace in town yesterday? Woo! Amazing. History being made. You know, we want this really to be a turning point. So, from now on, it's climate action, climate action, climate action. And you know, this summit is about solutions.
What do we want? Climate action. When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Climate action.
When do we want it?
Now.
We got it.
So our purpose here really is to take the energy that's been building this week and turn it into momentum. Momentums for solution that can actually reverse global warming. So we hope that you'll be hearing today that the solutions are already in existence and that we actually do have what we need to have to reverse global warming by 2050 to bring it to the drawdown. To welcome us here into this space of OCAD, I want to welcome Peter Jones, who is a professor here at OCAD. to give us the welcome and a little bit of logistics about the space we're in.
Thank you, John. Hi, I'm Peter. I'll be here all day with you, so welcome to OCAD University. You're in the main building, which is where we have up to 4,000 design students. I teach in the graduate school, so I'm looking around for students, and it's Saturday, okay? Busy. So with that, thank you for coming out on a Saturday. I know if you've been involved all week, this really means a lot to be here. So we're really glad to see the turnout today. So you're in the main auditorium. There are several other rooms here that we'll be using today. So a lot of you may have already visited or seen in the lounge that we have the networking tables, which will be ongoing throughout the day. And I think they'll be there most of the day. And they'll be coming and going through the plenary talks. So we'll have panels and discussions. So I'll also be leading an open space, or you will be doing an open space this afternoon. And stick around for that, because that's where we actually bring the action together, what you think we can do. After learning about the science and the solutions, yes, you're in class, you're at school, you're at a design school, but we're going to be learning about the science. And you're going to be it's a convivial classroom in a way, so thank you for being here. Logistics are fairly simple. You're on the main floor. The security desk are weekend staff, so if you have questions, they'll help, but you can ask me for questions about the university or them for any questions about logistics. One of the things is we're not sure if the air conditioning is going to kick in or not. It may if it gets warm enough, and if it doesn't, those doors don't open. We've got all the doors open that can. So, hey, we're trying to minimize our footprint, so bear with us. The restrooms, there are 3 restrooms that are out in the main hallway. There are also restrooms on the 2nd floor. When we do open space, I'll also remind you where the other rooms are that we'll be using. We'll be using some 2nd floor rooms, and we'll be using this main floor area. So we'll help with that then. So if you have any questions about getting around or throughout the day or at lunch break, let us know, and we'll be bearing with you. So I'd now like to introduce another professor, and Dr. David Burman, who will be opening a sacred space and a land acknowledgement on behalf of the Indigenous land.
Ani, bonjour, sego, segole, kwekwe, tansi, kanuipi. That's hello in just some of the indigenous languages that are spoken in this city from all over Turtle Island, which is North America. We say open the sacred space because one of the reasons we've gotten in so much trouble with here is we've lost our connection with the sacred. And so by opening this space in a good way, we recognize our connection, our disconnection. We become dismembered, we become disconnected from ourselves, we become disconnected from each other, disconnected from the earth. So our job is to remember ourselves, right? To become whole again. So I would like to acknowledge this land that this institution is on, which has been indigenous territory with continuous oral history for at least 15,000 years. The Wendat Huron nations, the confederacy of those peoples from about 8,000 years ago, this is their territory. Then the Seneca from the Haudenosaunee Confederacy have claimed this territory. And most recently, the Mississauga and Anishinaabe have moved in, and this is now their territory. So this is Anishinaabe land. So we respect their traditions when we look at these ceremonial items. But I think we need to recognize, most of all, the land itself. The land which is sacred. The earth. That science is beginning to catch up with indigenous knowledge by recognizing this planet as a living, breathing, physiological organism, and the indigenous people would say, with consciousness and spirit. This land, this earth, that breathes in carbon in the summer and breathes out in the winter, breathes in during the day, breathes it out at night, in balance, until we came along and cut out 80% of her lungs and at an increasing rate. Now, if I had 80% of my lungs cut out, I'd have difficulty breathing. I'd be trying to get air, and I'd be having trouble getting rid of the carbon in my blood. And my blood chemistry would change, and that's exactly what's happening to the Earth. The water is her blood. The oceans are her blood. The air is her skin. The rocks are her bones. And the fire is her heart. And the fire is our heart. As soon as I find a lighter, I'll be able to light it. So we light the sacred fire, which people have gathered around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Ever since we discovered how to light it, we've gathered around it. The fire represents the heart. It represents the masculine energy. The water represents the feminine. So we have water and fire in balance. We also have the sacred medicines. Tobacco in the east, which represents the spirit and the air. Cedar in the south represents the physical, the strength of youth. In the north, in the west, sage represents our emotions, but also our transformative ability, the depth of our being. And in the north, the intellectual capacity to reason, to see the whole, and represented by the sweetgrass. These are the medicines of this territory, which is why we use them. And our job, at the time of creation, according to the stories of this region, at the time of creation, every organism was given its own instructions, its own responsibilities for looking after the whole. Just like the skin cells or any cell of your body has the job of looking after the whole, doing its part. The human was given the responsibility of taking care of all the rest. Since the earth is our mother, and there's no way around it, because every cell, every atom of our body comes from the earth and from everything else. The earth is our mother, which means that we're all related. Okay, you're my sisters and brothers. Even people who call themselves enemies are still related. We're related to every fish, every animal, four-legged and two-legged, every bird, every insect, every worm. We're all related. So you may not like your relatives, but you recognize that you're related. And so you behave accordingly. Every indigenous person around the world knows this is true. And we've been dismembered from that. So let's remember all our relations. I hope.
Thank you, David. Somebody on the lights here, we can get a little more light. Let's see. Yep, one slide that's being skipped here. There it is. I got it.
You're too fast.
Okay, so for the day, just so you know, there's about 260 people who have actually registered for this. So we expect more people to be arriving throughout the day. We'll see. And the program for the day is as follows. In just a few minutes, we're going to start an introduction to Drawdown. And then we're going to have a panel of some of the people who did the organizing for this week. And then we'll do a lunch break from noon to 1. And then we're going to do a panel on solutions that you'll learn about more in the drawdown section. And after that, we're doing an open space where anybody who has an action that you want to bring other people into, or an idea for action that you want to discuss and see if you can come up with a plan for, we'll be doing that in breakout groups for most of the afternoon. And then a ceremonial closing. And then I just was told that we won't be able to mingle as long as we wanted because they're going to need to close it at 6 o'clock. But we will have we'll see if we can get to the closing before that so that we can do a little mingling before that.
All right, this is acknowledgement time. So really, really want to thank OCAD, Peter, and all of OCAD for providing the space, and not just this space, but also meeting rooms, a place for the network tables, and I think even up until yesterday, saying, hey, if you really need, we've got classrooms. So OCAD has been a real partner and a player in having this day be successful. So really want to thank OCAD. Let's give them a hand. And just so you know, we have been planning this, John said to me this morning, for over a year. It's been on our agenda. We called it the All Sector Summit. And then when it came in line with this week and everything, we said, hey, this isn't just an all sector summit. This is a solution summit. That there's a lot more players that we can include in the conversation, which you'll see. There are some members of the organizing Drawdown Toronto core team here today that I'd like to have them stand up if they would. Gosh, guys, stand up. This is your time. Really, these guys work tirelessly.
Still people at registration too that aren't here, so
yeah,
they're on the team.
They're at the front. So I just have to say one thing. We were on a call 2 days ago, and Sneha and Vismay are the leads on the production team, and Sneha had 2 screens, and she said, I have 2 screens up, and I wish I had 3, and I must have 200 windows open. And I was like, oh man, we are so grateful. And just another quickie about Vismay and Sneha and Mohammed. They came to one of our core team meetings a month ago, and they literally stepped up. They just stepped up, and they've been so paramount in the success. I just want to say it's that easy just to say yes, and really want to thank you for just showing up and stepping in. Yeah. Go ahead, John. You're next.
And we really also want to acknowledge everybody who came, who was a part of organizing any of the events this week. So if you were a part of organizing an event this week as part of the strike activities, you also stand up.
All right. All right.
Yeah, all right. I saw on one report that said there were 7 million people around the world. Who were
30,000 in Toronto.
30,000 in Toronto, yes.
30,000 plus. 30,000 plus.
So also want to thank all of the network tablers that packed their bags up early this morning, filled their cars, brought their things down here, showed up, and also have been helping us out. So really want to thank them all for showing up to share what they're committed to, how they're part of the solutions. Let's give them a round of applause.
And I think you're going to do this part, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So just to give a little bit of framework for the solutions conversation, I'm just going to put this down, is, you know, we started, we said, oh yeah, Drawdown is a bunch of solutions that are out there. It's got 7 sectors. And then when this week happened, we realized that it's not just Drawdown solutions, it's solutions. All of the solutions. So we were talking about this morning of this idea of wake up, stand up, show up, step up. And what we were realizing is that so many of the events this week were about waking up, standing up, showing up, and that this piece here today helps us to get into what are we stepping up into? What is your role next? So all of what happened this week, the marches, the rants, the youth summits, the films, all of that was kind of a way for us to wake up. So let's see how being in an awake state, standing up and showing up here today informs you with what we're going to present today as to what is your role, your individual role moving forward.
And to get us in the mood for stepping up, you know, waking up, standing up, showing up, and stepping up, we're going to see a video with Greta Thunberg and George Monbiot, just to kind of demonstrate what it means to really stand up and you know, step up.
My name is Greta Thunberg. We are living in the beginning of a mass extinction. Our climate is breaking down. Children like me are giving up their education to protest. But we can still fix this. You can still fix this. To survive, we need to stop burning fossil fuels. But this alone will not be enough. Lots of solutions are talked about, but what about the solution that is right in front of us? I'll let my friend George explain.
There is a magic machine that sucks carbon out of the air, costs very little, and builds itself. It's called a tree. A tree is an example of a natural climate solution. Mangroves, peat bogs, jungles, marshes, seabeds, kelp forests, swamps, coral reefs, they take carbon out of the air and lock it away. Nature is a tool we can use to repair our broken climate. These natural climate solutions can make a massive difference.
Pretty cool, right?
But only if we also leave fossil fuels in the ground.
Here's the crazy part. Right now, we are ignoring them. We spend 1,000 times more on global fossil fuel subsidies than on natural-based solutions.
Natural climate solutions get just 2% of all the money used on tackling climate breakdown.
This is your money. It is your taxes and your savings.
Even more crazy, right now where we need nature the most, we're destroying it faster than ever.
Up to 200 species are going extinct every single day.
Much of the Arctic ice is gone. Most of our wild animals have gone. Much of our soil has gone.
So what should we do?
What should you do?
It's simple. We need to protect, restore, and fund. Protect. Tropical forests are being cut down at the rate of 30 football pitches a minute.
Where nature is doing something vital, we must protect it.
Restore. Much of our planet has been damaged.
But nature can regenerate, and we can help ecosystems bounce back.
Fund.
We need to stop funding things that destroy nature and pay for things that help it.
It is that simple. Protect, restore, fund.
This can happen everywhere. Many people have already begun using natural climate solutions. We need to do it on a massive scale.
You can be part of this.
Vote for people who defend nature.
Share this video. Talk about this.
All around the world, there are amazing movements fighting for nature. Join them.
Everything counts. What you do counts.
All right, well, would you say that's somebody that is ready to wake up, stand up, step up, and show up? Yeah. So that's just another example of something that you can do, your role, right? So what we'd like to do is just give you a fun kind of flavor of drawdown, and we thought we would do it a little differently today. Usually there's one or two of us at the front, we're doing a little intro. But we would love you to see the faces of drawdown. And so the drawdown team. So if you haven't got your scripts, those of you that are speaking, maybe go grab them. And we're going to just give you a little peek. We're calling it a crash course on drawdown, just so you, if you don't know about it or just to understand it a little more deeply. So, David Burman.
Me again. What was good?
Well, it's up to you.
I think I got it. Okay, so what is drawdown? It's a point when carbon stops increasing and starts to decrease on an annual level. It's a way of thinking about solutions to removing carbon from the atmosphere rather than just slowing down the rate of increase. It comes from Paul Hawken, who back in 2003, reading the IPCC report of how awful things were, thought, is there a way to reverse it? And he got a team of 150 advisors, 62 volunteer researchers. They had incredible resumes from around the world, and they looked at hundreds and hundreds of solutions that are in the peer-reviewed scientific literature. They restricted themselves to that. And they ranked them in terms of the amount of carbon reduced, the cost of implementation, and the amount of money saved. And it turns out, Greta was talking about funding, it turns out the return on your investment is 200%. So we end up saving twice as much as we invest in carbon reduction. So what's not to like? It also will create a more fun, more equitable, more enjoyable, more breathable, more prosperous world. So in my 4 minutes, that's basically drawdown.
All right.
Right, you mentioned it's a book and a website, right?
It's a book and a website.
So it's a book and a website, and we do have books for sale at the registration table for $35 if you're interested, and we do take credit card if you don't have any cash. Mohammed, understanding drawdown.
Well, the basic findings of these projects are very simple, but taken together create a profound shift of the way we think about and talk about the climate crisis. 200 scientists gathered from around the world, and basically they did the math. They mapped, measured, and modeled over 500 solutions, and came up with the top 80 solutions based on the carbon sequestration or avoidance. They only use solutions that are in existence and ready to scale up. They also list along with 80 solutions to new to measure, to round the number up to 100. When they ran the model, they discovered that if we do a feasible amount more of these, we reach the drawdown point by 2050. And one of the most encouraging results is that almost all these solutions are things we would want to do anyway to make the world healthier, more just, more resilient for everyone. The findings presented in the book and on the website rank each solution simply by the amount of CO2 either avoided or sequestrated. Costs and savings are important factors, and those you can see in the book and on the website. In turns out that although there are some initial costs for many of these solutions, taken together, not only can we reverse global warming, but we would make money over the 30 years between now and 2050. The total saving would be over 74 trillion US dollars. That's enough to pay for everything everyone in the world bought in an entire year. Each solution is laid out on 1 to 3 pages with beautiful graphics and a very interesting explanation that includes the history, little known facts, and more. It's an easy read to just explore solution by solution. Well, this chart shows each of the 80 solutions with the area of the chart proportional to the amount of carbon saved. When the researchers ran the data models, there were some big surprises. The solution that avoids the most climate-changing gates is refrigerant management, and there is already an agreement in place about this. It just has to be enforced. Educating girls, which is number 6, and family planning, number 7, combined become the would save even more carbon gases, and so would be the number 1 solution to the climate crisis. Notice that the food sector is the largest combined set of solutions, bigger than energy. 3rd is reduce food waste, and 4th is plant-rich diets. Thank you.
Thanks, Mohammed.
You're welcome.
So Paul Hawken, you saw him up there, editor of Drawdown, poses a couple of interesting questions that we thought we would bring up that really are a game changer for how we perceive and the perspective we have about climate change. So he asked the question, is global warming happening to us or for us? So if global warming is happening to us, then we say we're the victim, the oil companies are at fault, nothing I can do about it, what I do can't make a difference. If we say that global warming is happening for us, then we could take the perspective that this is an opportunity for each and every one of us to access our greatest creative potential and to direct that at civilizational crises, climate crises. He poses another question, is it game over or is it game on? Well, you know, we all know there's people around that say, hey, it's game over. We're done. Finished. Nothing we can do. I'm going to go and see the world while I can because it's beautiful now, but nothing we can do about it. And we would suggest that you, here in this room, and those 7 million people that showed up around the world to march, are claiming that it's game on. So let's say it together. Game on! All right.
Again.
Game on! Again, game on! All right, so two really important questions. So when you're in conversation with people, pose that with them as you're comfortable. You know, what is possible for us as individuals and human beings to really express our creative potential at a time when we're most needed. Thank you. Peter.
Okay, we're gonna cue up a brief video from Will Grant from the Drawdown Project. This is, based on the California Drawdown team that started the book and created the program that we're building on. And Will Grant, it's probably the only time you'll hear from him today, but he helps identify the areas where we can look to make change. And I don't know if you've thought about the different levels of action that you might take. That's essentially what his concept is here, and that's something that we need to consider. Very often we hear, we look at what we can do as individuals. Well, that's just one unit level of change. And of course, there's the community that we're in, there's the organizations that we work with, there's policy solutions. There are different levels. Will talks about those different levels of action and where we might situate ourselves to look to see where our own actions might have the most impact. And so this may or may not be surprising. I think it's important. Let's hear from Will, and we'll follow up.
In terms of this idea of kind of the level 2, level 3 change, another thing that I think about is, I think that the framing that a lot of folks think about in relationship to making change is that becoming an environmental activist. Right? And so they have to be standing out on the corner with a clipboard, saying they have minutes to talk about the environment, or they have to be lobbying all the time, or they have to leave their job, gain a new profession, and go towards that. But I think it's actually in the opposite direction. I think people can and should and need to stay in exactly the realms where they are. Because the truth is, we're going to have to change everything. Right? Everything about what we eat, how we produce power, the clothes we wear, all of this. And every profession has a role to change. Every neighborhood is a place that can make the change. And so I think it's powerful for people to realize that the where they live and how they live and where they work is exactly the place where they can make the change. And so an example that I think of is, I'm blanking on the name, but it's MacArthur Genius Grant winner a couple of years ago that came up with a very simple idea. He worked in hospitals and he cared about climate change. But instead of changing everything else, he just started changing the hospital that he was working in. And what he did is that he realized, he did some research, and hospitals are some of the most energy-intensive industries, and they're the most energy-intensive buildings outside of factories. And he said, so what? He's like, if I get solar panels on if we start to use regenerative power, he's like, I can do that at this hospital, and I can make a business case for it. And I know the chief financial officer, and I know he's a doctor. He's like, I know the whole hierarchy. I can make this change. And then he realized, wait, there's another element to this. He's like, the power that's being produced is also, that he found out that a lot of the power from those feeding his hospital was from waste incineration. And it was actually creating the cancers that they were trying to solve. And he took it from a public health point of view. So not really snap the doctors. He knew their mindset. And he was like, wait, we're creating the problems that then we're trying to heal. And so he changed the hospitals. And then for the past 20 years, he's made an entire career out of this. Now, so that's the idea of going into a career, but his first round was changing what he could actually control. Another example is that I have friends who are psychologists and therapists. And they were asking me what they could do after they saw some of my presentations. And I said, eco-anxiety is getting really real. And people are deeply immobilized. And there's studies in this that actually, the problem is not that we don't have enough information about climate change and about what's happening with the environment. The problem is that we have too much. We don't have frameworks for solutions, and people are actually immobilized. And I said, so there's so many ways that you could use the skills that you have. And just off the top of my head, I was like, if your clients are having anxiety, maybe ask them if it isn't the world situation and giving them a chance to talk about that. Maybe it's working with local organizations and advocacy organizations and saying, you know, can we talk about this? Can we talk about the way that you're framing your message? I was like, maybe give free sessions to people who do work in solar arrays or do stuff on environmental racism because of the intensity of the work that they're doing. But I was like, don't become something else. Use the skills that you have in order to make the change.
Okay. Now, to follow with this, I'd like to ask you to do a simple exercise. Just considering Will's points. I'd like to have us close our eyes and think and inventory all the organizations that you might be impacting, that you might have a relationship with, and that you might have the ability to influence or change towards the directions of strong sustainability in this way. So consider the actions that you're taking and you might be taking. We'll take a few seconds for this. Just consider those organizations in silence for a few minutes. Consider what you can do. What's possible. Conversations might be here. Who do we know that might inspire? What might be the next step? Okay. So know that everyone in this room and everyone around the world are with you, are with us. Drawdown is a project that will bring all humanity together. It's already that is already with us. So we're already in action. So,
Great. So Drawdown Toronto.
Flip it on.
Oh, flip it on. There we go. Drawdown Toronto was started about 2 years ago. The book, by the way, came out in April 2017. Satya and I got together and said, we're going to make this our mission, our purpose, to make sure that Drawdown actually happens, to do everything we can. And we went to our friends in Caledon. Stand up, people, Caledon. Caledon was the first place where we did an introduction to Drawdown, using materials from the Pachamama Alliance, an organization we're not going to talk about today because we don't have time.
First one in the world.
The first one, they did the first introduction and the first course on Drawdown, and then we brought it to Toronto and gathered a lot of people who are here today. And we came up with a mission for Drawdown Toronto, which is we envision a flourishing, regenerative world with a climate that's healthy for the children of all species for generations to come. And we said that our mission...
It's sensitive.
It's very sensitive.
Oh, wow.
Here we go. One time. Our mission. Our mission is to educate and inspire individuals and organizations and institutions throughout the Toronto area to actively and consciously engage in translating Drawdown solutions into meaningful strategic action and measurable results. We're committed to having Toronto become a leader in the growing global movement that succeeds in reversing the concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere by 2050. That's what the Drawdown math shows is possible. What we plan, we've got all kinds of things going on. This is one event. We've done 7 sector summits. This is the one that represents all sectors. We will continue doing these kind of events, probably focus on the sectors of society rather than the Drawdown sectors. We want to host an event on financial advocacy, move your money fund the change, and on different policies that need to be enacted. We have these drawdown introductions that you are just got a crash course in, take about 2.5 hours, or a full course that you can do in 4 or 5 sessions of 3 hours each. And we do keynote speaking, so we have an offer that if you're part of an organization that has a group of people who would like to find out about Drawdown, we will come and do a course, we will come and do an introduction, we'll do a keynote, we'll even sit down with you and help you figure out how the framework that Drawdown provides can be useful to your organization.
And we'll, 2.5 hours, we can do an hour and a half, we can do an hour, we can do a 20-minute, we've done 7-minute long ones. So we're very adaptable to the timelines that you have in your organizations.
And one key point about Drawdown is that it represents solutions that are actually already happening. So we're not asking people to take on whole new projects, to do what you're doing already, do it more, do it better, expand it. And we think that that's going to be the solution. It's fundamentally about how to find where you fit in the whole picture of actually reversing global warming. We do have some what we call invitations to participate at our table outside. If you would like to join us in some fashion, just fill one of those out and we'll be in touch with you, and you can join in making this happen. I think I'm on to this May, because we have a little bit more of this.
Okay, so to close upon the course, the Drawdown course, we're going to have a bit of an inspiration from a poet, Dellinger.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. So here we go.
It's 3:23 in the morning, and I'm awake, because my great-great-grandchildren won't let me sleep. My great-great-grandchildren ask me in dreams, what did you do while the planet was plundered? What did you do when the earth was unraveling? Surely you did something when the seasons started failing, as the mammals, reptiles, birds were all dying. Did you fill the streets with protest when democracy was stolen? What did you do once you knew?
Wow, that was powerful. So what did you do? We would say you showed up at places. You showed up many other places through this week. You showed up here, and it tells me a lot that you all have hope. And even if you don't have, you showed up at places where people had hope, where people had solutions. And I feel that's contagious. That's very contagious. So to keep up with that spirit, just take a moment to reflect and look around you, all the people who have been courageous to be here, and just do a silent meditation for 30 seconds. Just look around, just be aware, and acknowledge. All right, that's amazing.
So that concludes our crash course on what is Drawdown, and want to now begin the panel of organizers, people who have been at work making this happen. They are people who woke up a while ago. Yeah, they said, I gotta do something here. I'm gonna show up and see what there is to do. I have to stand for something. And then they stepped up to really make something happen. So to moderate this panel, we're going to have Victoria Ho, who is OCAD University's Sustainability Coordinator within the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Sustainability Initiatives. She's got a lens on environmental and climate justice. Her role is to build relationships across disciplines, to advocate for organizational change in curriculum building, building operations, and administration. She believes that we can collectively unpack that word with too many syllables, sustainability, for a future full of life. Victoria?
Hi everyone, I'm so happy to be here. Talking about my role at the university, it reminded me of what Peter was saying earlier in some of the videos, that we all already have skills, we all already have relationships to people and places. So if we could just take a minute, less than that, much less than that, a couple seconds to reflect on that answer you had to Peter's question of who are you willing to start with? Who in your life will you speak to? Which organizations are in your life where you can have an influence? So find an answer, who and which organization, and just turn to the person next to you. So please just say hello and your name, and share with them, where will you start, or where have you already started? Your name, the people with whom you'll develop relationships, organization.